Delivery for Jessica. The next courier will bring the divorce papers. Cheating witch.
You know what they say about karma? Sometimes she needs a delivery driver. My name's Nick Harper, and I've spent the last 15 years thinking I knew my wife, Jessica. Turns out, I knew jack crap. But we'll get to that delicious revelation in a minute. It was a Tuesday night in November when my world got served to me on a sushi platter. I was pulling my third Uber Eats shift that week because Jessica's HR director salary wasn't covering her new lifestyle expenses, which apparently included a lot more than I'd bargained for. The notification pinged on my phone. Order ready for pickup. Sakura Sushi. The delivery address made me do a double take. 1247 Riverside Drive, Unit 12A. I knew that address. Evan Dorn's luxury condo. Jessica's so-called business contact from her real estate networking group. Here's the thing about being a construction foreman. You develop a nose for BS. When your wife says she's going to a 3-day conference in Chicago, but her favorite spicy tuna rolls are getting delivered to some pretty boy's apartment in our own damn city, that nose starts twitching. I grab the order, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The universe has a twisted sense of humor, making me the delivery boy for my own betrayal. The drive to Riverside took 12 minutes. 12 minutes of me rehearsing what I'd say, what I'd do, how I'd handle seeing my wife of 8 years in another man's arms. By the time I pulled up to Evan's building, I had it figured out. I was going to play it cool, professional, just a delivery guy doing his job. That plan lasted exactly 30 seconds. I knocked on the door of Unit 12A, holding the bag of sushi like it was evidence in a murder trial, which, in a way, it was. The murder of my marriage. The door opened, and there she was, Jessica, my wife. Wearing a man's dress shirt that definitely wasn't mine, her hair messed up in that particular way that told a story I didn't want to read. Nick? Her face went white as fresh drywall. What are you doing here? Enlarge held up the sushi bag, my voice steady as concrete. Uber Eats delivery for Jessica Harper, though I guess that's not your address anymore. Behind her, I heard footsteps. Evan Dorn appeared in the doorway, all 6 feet of smug real estate broker, wearing nothing but boxer shorts and a guilty expression. Hey there, Nick, Evan said, like we were old buddies meeting at a barbecue. This is awkward. Awkward. The man was screwing my wife, and he called it awkward. I looked at Jessica, really looked at her. The woman who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, for richer or poorer. Apparently, she'd found herself a richer option. You know what's really awkward, Evan? I said, setting the sushi bag down on the hallway floor. I packed Jessica's suitcase for her business trip this morning. Funny thing is, I've still got it in my car. Jessica's eyes went wide. Nick, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you're not in Chicago? That you're here, in his shirt, eating the sushi I'm delivering? Hell, Jess, I think the picture's pretty clear. My car, grabbed her suitcase from the trunk, and returned to the doorway where they both stood frozen like deer in headlights. Here's your tip, I said, dropping the suitcase at Jessica's feet. Find a place to stay. The locks get changed tomorrow. Out his chest like he was about to say something tough. I've been working construction for 20 years, dealing with guys twice his size who could actually back up their attitude. This real estate pretty boy didn't scare me. Now hold on, Nick, Evan said. We're all adults here. We can work this out. I stepped closer to him, close enough that he could smell the coffee on my breath and see the years of hard work in my eyes. You're absolutely right, Evan. We are adults, which is why you're going to step back into your fancy apartment and think real hard about whether you want to keep playing house with my wife. Because if I see you again, if I even hear your name mentioned in connection with Jessica, you're going to discover that I know a lot more about demolition than just buildings. He stepped back. Smart man. Jessica was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks like black rain. Nick, please, we can talk about this. We can work through this. I looked at her one last time, this woman I'd loved, this stranger wearing her face. We're done talking, Jess. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. I turned and walked away, leaving them both standing in that doorway with a bag of sushi and a suitcase full of broken promises. As I drove away, I caught sight of them in my rearview mirror. Jessica was sobbing. Evan had his arm around her, and I was smiling for the first time in months. The delivery was complete. Now the real work could begin. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, for what I figured might be the last time as a married man. The silence was different now. Not peaceful, but empty. Like the quiet you get on a construction site right before the wrecking ball swings. I called in sick to work, which raised exactly 0 eyebrows since I hadn't taken a sick day in 3 years. Then I called my lawyer, Dave Patterson, a guy I'd known since high school who'd traded his hard hat for a law degree. "Nick Harper," Dave said when he picked up. "Please tell me you're not calling because you finally punched out that a-hole supervisor of yours." "Worse, I need a divorce lawyer." The pause on the other end told me everything. I can't look the divorce. David met Jessica plenty of times at barbecues and birthday parties. He'd always been polite, but I could tell he thought she was a little too polished for a guy like me. What happened? I told him about the sushi delivery, about finding Jessica at Evan's place, about the whole sorry mess. Dave listened without interrupting, which is why he made a good lawyer. "Okay," he said when I finished. "First things first, don't do anything stupid. Don't key his car, don't post angry crap on Facebook, don't give her ammunition. Second, we need to document everything. Third, change those locks like you said you would, but do it legal. Give her notice. Follow the rules." "What about our joint accounts?" "Free out. Freeze them. Today. Assets when you discover infidelity. Just make sure you do it by the book." Reinforced, I spent the morning following Dave's instructions. Bank first, locksmith second, then a trip to Big Mike's house to fill in my best friend and work partner on the situation. Mike Kowalski was the kind of guy who made me look small, and I'm not exactly tiny. 6'4", hands like catcher's mitts, and a laugh that could wake the dead. He'd been my partner on job sites for 8 years, and if I was going to war, I wanted him in my foxhole. "That cheating witch," Mike said after I told him the story. We were sitting in his garage sharing a beer even though it wasn't even noon yet. "And with that real estate prick? Jesus, Nick, I never liked that guy. Remember when he came to your birthday party last year? Kept talking about his Tesla and his crypto investments like we gave a crap." "Yeah, well, apparently Jessica gave more than a crap." Mike crushed his empty beer can with one hand. "What do you need me to do?" "Need you to help me move her stuff out. Legal-like, but thorough. And I need you to help me with something else." "What?" I grinned. "I need you to help me deliver it." We loaded up my pickup truck with everything Jessica had left behind. Clothes, shoes, books, that stupid collection of ceramic angels she'd been buying for years. We packed it all carefully in boxes, like we were moving precious cargo. Then we drove to Evan's building. The lobby of 1247 Riverside Drive was all marble and mirrors. The kind of place where people paid extra to look down on working folks like me and Mike. The doorman, a thin guy in his 60s wearing a uniform that probably cost more than I made in a week, tried to stop us. "Excuse me, gentlemen, where are you going with those boxes?" "Delivery for Evan Dorn, Unit 12A, I said. "His girlfriend's stuff." "I'll need to call up and confirm." "No need," Mike said, setting down his stack of boxes right there in the lobby. "We're not going up. We're leaving it right here." "You can't do that," the doorman protested. "Watch us," I said, adding my boxes to Mike's pile. We made 3 trips from the truck, building a mountain of Jessica's belongings right there in the fancy lobby. Other residents walked by, staring at the growing pile of boxes, whispering to each other. By the time we finished, we'd created a spectacle that would have the whole building talking for weeks. I left a note on top. "For Jessica Harper, care of Evan Dorn. Hope you're happy with your new accommodations. Your ex-husband." The doorman was on the phone, probably calling building management, maybe calling the cops. I didn't care. We hadn't broken any laws, just created a little inconvenience. As we walked out, Mike clapped me on the shoulder. "Feel better?" "Getting there." That evening, I drove to Lola's bar, the kind of dive where construction workers and cops drank together and nobody asked too many questions. Lola herself was behind the bar, a woman in her 50s who'd seen everything and judged nothing. "Nick Harper," she said as I took my usual stool. "You look like a man with a story." "You could say that." She poured me a whiskey without asking what I wanted. Lola had a gift for reading people's drink needs. "Jessica left me," I said. "Found her shacked up with some real estate a-hole." Lola nodded like she'd been expecting this news for years. That explains why Trina Morrison was in here earlier, running her mouth about how Jessica deserves better than a blue-collar nobody. Morrison. Jessica's best friend since college, a woman who'd never liked me and never bothered to hide it. If she was already taking sides, word was spreading fast. What'd you tell her? Lola smiled. I told her that blue-collar nobodies are the ones who built the roof over her head and the roads she drives on. Then I told her to pay her tab and get out. I raised my glass. To loyal friends. To loyal friends, Lola agreed. And to the ex-wives who don't deserve them. As I sat there planning my next move, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, excitement. For too long, I've been playing defense, trying to make Jessica happy, trying to be enough for her. Now I was playing offense, and I was just getting started. 3 days later, Jessica called. I was on a job site, supervising the demolition of an old warehouse, when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Nick, we need to talk. Her voice was strained, tired. Do we? Because I thought we covered everything the other night. You know, when I found you wearing another man's shirt. Please, can we meet somewhere? Just to talk? I looked around the job site, watching my crew tear down walls that had stood for 50 years. Sometimes destruction was necessary before you could build something new. Lola's bar, 8 o'clock, and Jessica, come alone. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in the glass of course, sitting in a corner booth looking smaller than I remembered. She'd always been petite, but now she seemed fragile, like she might break if someone spoke too loudly. You look tired, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. I haven't been sleeping well. She fidgeted with her wedding ring, still wearing it despite everything. Nick, about what happened. You mean about you screwing Evan Dev? She strapped them in the train and she set them balloon this. She was already there when I arrived. You mean about you screwing Evan Dorn while I was working double shifts to pay for your lifestyle? She flinched. It's not that simple. That's don't like you sure it is. You got bored with your blue-collar husband and decided to trade up. It happens. That's not fair. I leaned back, studying her, was finally seeing her clearly. You know what's not fair, Jess? Me busting my A for 8 years while you played house with your country club friends. Me taking night shifts delivering food so you could afford those yoga classes and wine tastings. Me believing you when you said you loved me. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. I do love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. The dependable husband who pays the bills and doesn't ask questions. But you don't love me enough to be faithful. It just happened, Nick. Evan and I, we connected. He understands my ambitions, my dreams. Your dreams of what? Living in a fancy condo? Driving a Tesla? Marrying someone who wears suits to work instead of steel-toed boots? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. My lawyer's filing papers tomorrow. You can contest it if you want, but I've got photos of you coming out of Evan's building, witnesses who saw me deliver your stuff, and a timeline that proves you've been lying to me for months. You had me followed? I didn't have to. You weren't exactly subtle about it. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. What about the house? I bought it before we got married. I've been making the payments, and I've got documentation of your infidelity. You'll be lucky to get alimony. You're being cruel. Stood up, dropping a 20 on the table. No, Jessica, I'm being honest. Maybe for the first time in our marriage. As I walked away, she called after me. Nick, wait! I turned back. I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. I looked at her sitting there crying into her napkin and felt something I didn't expect. Pity. I know you are, Jess. But sorry doesn't unscrew him, does it? The next few days blurred together. Dave filed the papers, Jessica moved her remaining stuff out of the house, and I threw myself into work like a man possessed. The warehouse demolition was therapeutic. Every swing of the sledgehammer felt like I was tearing down the lies my marriage had been built on. It was Friday afternoon when things got interesting. I was in the site trailer, reviewing blueprints, when Big Mike knocked on the door. Boss, you got visitors. Looking up to see Trina Morrison and Mason Webb, Evan's business partner and best friend, standing outside the trailer like they were door-to-door salesmen selling trouble. This should be fun, I muttered, stepping outside. Trina was dressed like she was going to a board meeting, all sharp angles and expensive fabric. Mason looked like what he was, a wannabe entrepreneur who spent more time talking about deals than making them. Nick, Trina said, her voice dripping with fake concern, we need to talk. About what? About Jessica. About this whole situation. I crossed my arms. What situation would that be? Mason stepped forward, trying to look intimidating in his designer jeans and polo shirt. Look, man, you're being unreasonable. Jessica made a mistake, sure, but you're destroying her life over it. Am I? Because from where I stand, Jessica destroyed her own life when she decided to cheat on her husband. It's not that black and white, Trina said. You two grew apart, it happens. But this vindictive BS you're pulling, the public humiliation, the divorce papers, freezing the bank accounts, it's cruel. I looked around the job site at the workers who were pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. These were my people. Honest, hardworking folks who understood loyalty and respect. You know what's cruel? I said, my voice carrying across the site. Working your A off for 8 years while your wife screws around behind your back. Delivering food at night so she can afford her fancy lifestyle while she's planning to leave you for someone with more money. Trina's face flushed red. That's not what happened. Isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. Mason tried again. Look, Nick, we're all adults here. Jessica and Evan are in love. Real love. The kind that doesn't come around often. You should be happy for her. Resigned, I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The sheer audacity of these people, coming to my workplace to lecture me about love while defending infidelity. Happy for her? You want me to be happy that my wife cheated on me? We want you to be mature about it, Trina said. Mature. I nodded slowly. Okay, here's me being mature. Over to Mason, getting close enough to smell his expensive cologne. You tell your boy Evan that if he wants to play house with my wife, that's his business. But if he thinks he's getting half my assets in this divorce, he's stupider than he looks. You can't threaten him, Mason said, but his voice shook. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just explaining the facts. Fact 1, Jessica cheated. Fact 2, I've got evidence. Fact 3, cheating wives don't get rewarded in divorce court. I turned to Trina. And you can tell Jessica that if she wants to fight this divorce, she better be prepared for everyone to know exactly what kind of woman she is. Because I'm done protecting her reputation. You're an a-hole, Nick Harper, Trina spat. Yeah, probably, but I'm an honest a-hole. Which is more than I can say for your friend. They left after that, climbing into Trina's BMW and driving away like they were fleeing a crime scene. Big Mike walked over, shaking his head. Those people live in a different world than us, don't they? World where actions don't have consequences and loyalty doesn't mean crap. So, what's next? I smiled, feeling that familiar excitement building in my chest. Next, we give them a taste of the real world. The thing about revenge is that it's like construction work. You need the right tools, a solid plan, and the patience to do it right. Rush the job, and the whole thing comes crashing down on your head. I spent the weekend planning my next move. Jessica and Evan thought they could embarrass me, turn my friends against me, make me look like the bad guy in their little love story. They were about to learn that blue-collar guys don't just build things. We know how to tear them down, too. Monday morning, I got a call from old man Riley, my next-door neighbor. Riley was 73, a retired cop with eyes like a hawk and a memory like a steel trap. He'd been watching my house while I worked, keeping an eye on things. Nick, you got a minute? Sure, Riley, what's up? That wife of yours came by yesterday with her boyfriend, tried to get into the house. What do you mean, tried? I mean, they walked around the place, tried the doors, looked in the windows. When they saw me watching, they pretended they were just picking up mail. But I know what I saw. Did they get in? Nope, your new lock's held. But they were up to something. The boyfriend had a camera, taking pictures of your truck, your tools in the garage. Seemed real interested in your business. Aximizing. Evan was documenting my assets, probably for the divorce proceedings. Jessica was helping him build a case for why she deserved half of everything I'd worked for. Thanks, Riley. I owe you one. You don't owe me nothing. Just watch your back, son. That woman's got the look of someone who's planning something nasty. I hung up and called Dave Patterson. They're building a case, Dave confirmed after I told him about Riley's observations. Probably trying to prove you're hiding assets or that your construction business is worth more than you're claiming. Can they do that? They can try, but it works both ways, Nick. If they want to play hardball, we can play hardball too. What did some investigating of our own, starting with Mr. Evan Dorn's business dealings. That afternoon, I met Dave at his office. a modest place in a strip mall that specialized in serving regular folks, not corporate clients. Dave had done well for himself, but he'd never forgotten where he came from. "Here's what I found," he said, spreading papers across his desk. "Evan Dorn, age 42, owner of Dorn Properties, LLC. On paper, he looks successful. Nice condo, expensive car, flashy lifestyle. But to the hilt. He owes money to 3 different banks. His credit cards are maxed out, and he's behind on his condo fees. The Tesla? Leased. The fancy watch? Financed. This guy is living paycheck to paycheck, just like the rest of us, except his paychecks are a lot less reliable." Studied the financial documents. So he's broke. Worse than broke. He's in debt up to his eyeballs and scrambling to keep up appearances, which explains why he's so interested in your assets. He thinks marrying Jessica will solve his money problems. Clang blacklist. Jessica gets half your stuff in the divorce. Suddenly, Evan's financial troubles disappear. I lean back in my chair, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. So this isn't about love. It's about money. It's always about money, Nick. Love just makes for better PR. Lola's bar, but not for a drink. I was meeting someone, a guy Big Mike knew, who specialized in finding information that people preferred to keep private. His name was Danny Chen, and he used to be a private investigator before he got tired of dealing with cheating spouses and insurance fraud. "Your boy Evan's got some interesting friends," Danny said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Ever heard of Tony Marconi?" "Should I have?" "Local loan shark. Nothing would make your credit card company blush. Guess who owes him 15 grand? Evan. Give the man a prize. And here's the kicker. The loan's due next month. If Evan can't pay, Tony gets creative about collecting." I opened the envelope, looking at photographs of Evan meeting with a thick-set man in an expensive suit. The photos were dated last week. How creative are we talking? Tony's old school. He doesn't break legs anymore, but he's got other ways of making life uncomfortable. Like calling your employer, your landlord, your friends, making sure everyone knows you're a deadbeat. This was perfect. Better than perfect. "Danny, you're a beautiful man." "Yeah, well, keep that to yourself. I got a reputation to maintain." The next morning, I put my plan into action. First stop, Evan's office, a glass and chrome monument to real estate ambition in the downtown business district. I walked in wearing my best jeans and a clean work shirt, looking every inch the blue-collar guy I was. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and a practiced smile, looked at me like I was lost. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Evan Dorn, Nick Harper." Her smile faltered. She'd probably heard about me from office gossip. "Do you have an appointment?" "Nope, but tell him I'm here about Jessica. He'll see me." 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from Evan in his corner office, watching him try to look confident while sweat beaded on his forehead. "Nick," he said, standing to shake my hand like we were old friends. "This is unexpected." I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I sat down and looked around his office. Expensive furniture, impressive view, framed photos of properties he'd sold. All of it mortgaged, all of it borrowed, all of it fake. "Nice place, Evan. Must cost a fortune to maintain." "I do well for myself." "I'm sure you do. Question is, how well? Because I've been hearing some interesting things about your business." His smile slipped. "What kind of things?" Baltic, I pulled out one of Danny's photographs, the one showing Evan with Tony Marconi, and placed it on his desk. "The kind of things that suggest you're not as successful as you pretend to be." Evan stared at the photo, his face going pale. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter? What matters is that you owe money to some very unfriendly people, and you think marrying my wife is going to solve your problems. That's not..." I leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to break up with Jessica. You're going to tell her you made a mistake, that you're not ready for a serious relationship, whatever BS story you want to use. And you're going to stay away from her. You can't make me do that. Because I'm thinking, Tony Marconi would be very interested to know that you're planning to marry a woman who's about to lose half her assets in a messy divorce. I'm thinking that might affect his confidence in your ability to repay your loan." Evan's hands were shaking now. "You wouldn't." "Try me. You've got 24 hours, Evan. After that, I start making phone calls." As I walked out of his office, I heard him calling after me, his voice cracking with desperation. But I didn't look back. I had one more stop to make. Jessica was waiting for me in the parking lot of her office building, just like I'd asked when I called her an hour ago. She looked confused, hopeful, like maybe I was ready to forgive and forget. "Nick, thank you for calling. I was hoping we could work things out." "We are working things out, Jess. Just not the way you expected." I handed her a copy of the divorce papers Dave had filed that morning. "What's this?" "Your future. No contest, no alimony, no splitting assets. You sign those papers and we're done. Clean break." Her face crumpling. "Nick, please, we can fix this." "There's nothing to fix. It's over." "But I love you." I looked at her standing there, tears streaming down her face, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just emptiness where my feelings for her used to be. "No, you don't. You love what I represented. Security, stability, someone to fall back on when your dreams didn't work out. But you don't love me." "Not true. Then why did you cheat?" She didn't have an answer for that. They never do. "Sign the papers, Jessica. Move on with your life. Find someone who makes you happy." "What about Evan?" I smiled. "Ask him, but I'd do it soon if I were you." Away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The demolition was complete. Now I could start building something new. 24 hours later, my phone rang. It was Jessica, and she was crying. "Nick, something's wrong with Evan. He broke up with me. He said he wasn't ready for a relationship, that he needed space. I don't understand what happened." I was sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee and reading the newspaper like a normal Tuesday morning. "I'm sorry to hear that, Jess." "You don't sound sorry." "I'm not, but I'm sorry you're hurt." "Did you do something? Did you threaten him?" I took a sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. I had a conversation with him, man to man. Apparently, he decided you weren't worth the trouble. The silence on the other end stretched out like a held breath. "You fool," she whispered. "Yeah, probably. But I'm a fool who doesn't owe money to loan sharks." She hung up on me. An hour later, Trina Morrison called. "You son of a witch," she said without preamble. "What did you do to Evan?" I introduced him to reality. Apparently, he didn't like what he saw. "Jessica is devastated. She really loved him." Then she should have thought about that before she cheated on her husband. "You're destroying her life." "No, Trina. I'm just not protecting her from the consequences of her choices anymore. There's a difference." "You're a cruel, vindictive man, and you're a friend to an adulterer. I guess we all have our flaws." She hung up too. The next few days were quiet. Jessica signed the divorce papers without contesting them. Evan disappeared from the social scene, probably too busy dealing with Tony Marconi to worry about his love life. Trina and the rest of Jessica's friends stopped calling me names behind my back, mostly because they were too busy dealing with their own problems. It was Friday night when I got the call I'd been waiting for. Big Mike calling from Lola's bar. "Nick, you need to get down here, now." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." "It good and sure then, Big Mike Schiff. You should have called themselves. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. Just get down here." I found Mike at the bar, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Lola was behind the bar, polishing glasses and smiling that knowing smile of hers. "What's got you so happy?" I asked. "Tell him, Lola." Lola set down her glass and leaned on the bar. "Your ex-wife came in about an hour ago, drunk as a skunk, crying about how her life is falling apart. Seems her boyfriend dumped her, her friends are avoiding her, and she's having trouble finding a new place to live." "Okay." So she starts going on about how you ruined everything, how you're a vindictive fool who destroyed her happiness, really working herself up into a state. And then she made the mistake of calling you a worthless blue-collar loser in front of a bar full of blue-collar workers. I looked around the bar. Every face was turned toward me, and every one of them was smiling. "What happened then?" "Well," Lola continued, "Tommy Kowalski, Mike's cousin, he stood up and told her that blue-collar losers built the building she was standing in. Then Maria Santos said blue-collar losers fixed her car when it broke down. Then everybody started chiming in about all the things blue-collar losers do to keep the world running. And Jessica? Jessica got real quiet, real stuffed, especially when I told her that blue-collar losers were no longer welcome to subsidize her drinks, and she could pay her tab and leave. Mike clapped me on the shoulder. She tried to pay with a credit card, but it got declined. Had to call Trina to come pick her up. Most pathetic thing I ever saw. I ordered a whiskey and raised the guard, and they threw in neutral and method in the form of the Steph. I ordered a whiskey, most the pathetic thing I ever saw. I ordered a whiskey, and she code rated. That's just a little funny. The mature that she know that when she funded. I ordered a whiskey, by the way, the blue-collar losers were no longer welcome to keep the world running. To blue-collar losers. To blue-collar losers, the whole bar echoed. As I sat there, surrounded by my real friends, I thought about the last few weeks. Jessica had chosen Evan over me, thinking she was trading up. Instead, she'd traded a loyal husband for a broke con man, a stable home for an uncertain future, and genuine friends for fair-weather acquaintances. Evan had chosen easy money over honest work, thinking he could solve his problems by marrying into mine. Instead, he'd lost his girlfriend and still owed money to people who didn't accept excuses. And me? I'd chosen truth over comfort, self-respect over false peace. I'd lost a cheating wife and gained my freedom. The divorce was finalized the following Monday. I kept the house, my business, and my self-respect. Jessica got her freedom and the chance to start over, which was more than she deserved but less than she'd expected. I never saw Evan again. Word around town was that he'd left for parts unknown, probably one step ahead of Tony Marconi's collection efforts. Jessica moved to another city, got a job with a different company, and started a new life. I heard she was dating someone new, a divorced accountant who drove a sensible sedan and lived in a modest apartment. Maybe she'd learned something from our marriage. Maybe she hadn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. 6 months later, I was having dinner at Lola's when she slid a newspaper across the bar. Thought you might find this interesting. It was a small item in the business section. Local real estate broker declares bankruptcy. The article was brief, but it mentioned that Evan Dorn had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection after defaulting on multiple loans and facing legal action from creditors. Poor guy, I said, not meaning it. Yeah, Lola agreed. It's tough when your chickens come home to roost. I folded the newspaper and handed it back to her. You know what the best part about all this is? What's that? I didn't have to become someone I'm not to get my revenge. I didn't have to lie or cheat or break the law. I just had to stop protecting them from the consequences of their own actions. And that was enough? I smiled, raising my glass one more time. That was everything. Surrounded by honest people living honest lives, I realized something important. I hadn't just won a battle against my cheating wife and her broke boyfriend. I'd won something more valuable. I'd won back myself. The delivery had been completed. The divorce was final. And for the first time in years, I was exactly where I belonged.